I'm continuing to work down the wall at this point, and we're about 2/3 of the wall complete. It's very random, and in spots there are bare areas, and that's perfectly fine depending on your preference for the amount of metallic you want in here. Lots of times the metallic flakes will hit the floor, so I've grabbed a box lid to help me catch some of those that fall. Placing these on the wall can be very time consuming, and so sometimes larger pieces are nicer. We've got some large pieces, and then we grab a few in a handful at a time, a pinch, and we find an area where the glue is applied, set the box against the wall to catch, and just lightly trace your fingers across the wall. Some flakes will stick at that point, and then you can just press them in. Blowing them onto the sides on the wall is not an effective method because it seems to just blow everywhere, and you have a lot that you'll lose. So just placing them in random application, we're continuing on with. And then just pat them to make sure they all lie down flat. If there are bare areas, you can always go back in with more size and more foil to be able to place onto the wall to fill in open areas. You definitely don't need full coverage though. The plaster will be the next step, and these will just be peeking through the relief areas. You want to make sure to include multiple colors of foil and not concentrate them necessarily with this particular look. We've completed the second level of this finish. It has the metallic foils all on the wall at about 85% coverage. And you want to take your hand over after you finalized and make sure you smooth it. Make sure all the foils are really adhered to the wall well. If there are pieces that are still slightly lifting, that's okay. We will be applying the next level to seal all the metallic foils. You, over time, would see a natural tarnishing process happen due to natural elements exposed to the metallic flakes. So you can use whatever top coat you want. Probably best to use a water-based. You'll want to also test an area to make sure that your water-based sealer does not react negatively with the metallic foils and create a blackened effect. I have done a test area and found that FOEFFECT's varnish plus gloss is going to work with my foils. So at this point we're going to do a full coverage coat and seal the metallic foils. The size also has completely dried and cured. And as you place this on the wall, sometimes the foils will begin to lift, and you're just going to want to lightly brush them with your finger and make sure that they lay down. Often for the final look of the wall, you will also want to think about, as you're working at each phase, your outlet covers. So make sure that you're applying the product to them as well as you go along if you want that look. You'll also want to make sure that the top coat sealer that you choose has a sheen to it. You would not want to use a dull sheen because that would flatten the effect of the metallic flakes, and there will not be a sparkle when you're done, which defeats the purpose. You certainly could use a bigger roller if you desire as well. If you were to use an oil-based sealer, you'll find that the next layer would not adhere well without some sanding to give it some tooth and grip. You'd also have to make sure that the oil-based sealer completely cured before you go with the next level of sanding. And I really don't want to add any more work to my process, and I don't have the time to allow it to cure. So staying in a water-based is what I've chosen. I'm just going to continue on down the wall until it's completed. And the cloudy effect that you see initially will fade and go high gloss, clear sheen. You want to make sure that it's a non-yellowing product as well. The varnish plus gloss that we put on earlier is now totally dry, and you can still see the magnificent metallics coming through. The sheen is high, so we can proceed with the next and final layer, which is the AquaStone by Faux Effects. And I've tinted it with a custom color to match the adjacent walls. And then as we apply this, I have used a whiz roller, and I put it into the AquaStone, which appears much like the thickness of frosting. You can add 10% water to it as you are mixing it with your colorant. Get some on your whiz roller, offload a little bit, and then in a random fashion you go over the metallics, and you want little peaks to appear. You definitely aren't going to rub it and smear it in. You do want the lift on the product so that the other shines through. You want to be organic in your shapes so that you don't have perfect spheres or circles when you're done. You're giving it texture. And you keep moving on, allowing it to set up. And if you haven't got enough texture on, I have found a sea sponge to be very effective in helping to add to the areas if you'd like. But while that's setting up, I'll show you with the final layer, will appear. I'm calling this Amber Chateau. You can see all the beautiful metallics coming through the AquaStone. And it does take a few moments for the AquaStone to stiffen a little bit. But the next process will involve using a trowel. This is called a Japanese trowel. It's very flexible and it works very well for a lot of purposes. So I really like this tool. You'll want to have a wash rag nearby to make sure that your trowel stays clean after you do some troweling motions. And I will test this area just to see if it's starting to set up. When it does set up too much, you can still go back in and fill it, but you really want to catch it before it gets to that point. And I just use light arcing motions. And we're burying that metallic in a little bit. And here it's still pretty soft. It was thicker in that place, but as you can see, there's buildup on my trowel, and I want to get rid of that. So you're going to probably want some paper towel to offload that, and then possibly a wet washcloth to wipe your trowel. I prefer more coverage than this. I want to bury it just a little bit more and also create some more organic shapes. So I'm going to take my sponge, blot it. It's a moist sponge, and I'm going to blot it into my AquaStone and just carry it through in areas. And again, I'm just going to let this set up a little bit before I continue on troweling it. In the meantime, I'll move on to another area while that's setting up, and I'll begin using the whiz roller again. And the sponge is really effective for areas where you have a tight corner or molding down at the bottom. Near the edges, I don't like to wait till it sets up quite as much, just so that I can get a nice blend near the tape line. And I'm just smoothing out. Sometimes the trowel will leave some lines in the product, and my client has requested that it remain smooth. So for this finish, we'll continue on troweling down the wall.